Okay, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. I am, of course, Mangg. And we're going to be doing a little bit of Blood Echo farming, I think, in Bloodborne for my Unearthed Arcana playthrough. Because we want to be as OP as possible. Alright, we got plenty to talk about today, so I guess we'll dive into it. First off, exploring series, and before I forget, I'd like to mention this little anecdote because it's pretty cool. The other day, I get a text from my sister, and apparently, she was hanging out with her niece, on my brother-in-law's side. I don't know how old she is or anything like that. But not that old. Not like college level. I don't even think like high school level. And my sister was wearing one of my Exploring Series shirts. And her niece recognized the symbol. And recognized the name. I guess probably, maybe, I don't know, either or both, I don't know. Recognized the shirt, at least, and said, hey, we've been watching those Lord of the Rings videos in class. Our teacher's been showing them. Now, they didn't know, that I was, like, the creator of the videos. It wasn't like she went into class and said, hey, check out these videos, blah, blah, blah. I know the guy that makes them. I've never met this girl. I have no idea. That was just, her teacher happens to be a big Lord of the Ring Middle-earth fan and happened to show them in class. I don't know if they were learning Tolkien or what was going on there, but for whatever reason, they showed him in class, and so she recognized the shirt. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but personally, I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, I never would have imagined something like that happening. When I started, when I was just making the Cthulhu video for like 20 people, 30 people, never would I think some Middle-earth videos would be shown in classes. That's nuts. That's nuts. So, that was a pretty sweet text to get. Pretty damn happy about that. Yeah, I don't know. So now I guess that girl can go into her class whenever and say, that's my aunt's brother that makes those videos. Pretty cool. So I actually uploaded 2 exploring videos this week. On Monday we did Exploring Yoda, which was more popular than I thought it would be, because in my experience people prefer to watch videos on villains, but Yoda passed up Palpatine, which is pretty impressive. I wasn't that blown away by the Yoda video when I put it together, but people seem to like it, so, more popularity is a good thing. Yeah, and then Thursday, I think it was Thursday, I put up the Exploring RPGs, The Sprawl, which is a different title than when I uploaded it to this channel, which was Roll-Manging The Sprawl Summary. So, I mentioned previously that I wanted to put together a video for The Sprawl because we're planning to play it. And, of course, I love Cyberpunk. I love talking about Cyberpunk. I can always make videos about that. So I figured, I'll just throw a video together like the old days and it'll be good. And then as I thought about it, I was like, well, I could do it as, like, an hour and 20 minutes of me rambling and things like that, which I do really... I mean, I really enjoy doing that. Me talking about RPGs, like, it's, you know, cyberpunk RPGs or whatever. It's just fun for me. I thought, okay, I could do that, or I could use my newfound talent for summarizations to actually put together a proper video for it in case other people see it. Because that's kind of been a regret that I had, because I've put together a few Shadowrun videos, such as my Matrix video and stuff like that, and they're all over like an hour, and it's me just rambling and me not thinking anybody's ever gonna see it. And so it kind of makes me cringe a little bit getting, you know, it has a bunch of views, and it's like, this could be such a better video. So I thought, okay, the Sprawl is not as popular as Shadowrun, but I'd rather not regret something in the future, so maybe I should put together a proper video. And it didn't take a tremendous amount of time. I mean, it was 40-some minutes. The script was definitely pretty lengthy. I wrote out the entire script, of course. And but the script kind of wrote itself. Looking back on it, you know, now, funnily, I mean, I can already see some things that I shouldn't have, or I should have included that I didn't. So I already have regrets. No matter what, I'm gonna have regrets. It's just how it is. It's not a perfect video. And so I figured, okay, I'll, you know, just upload it to this channel, a bunch of people will watch it, and then we'll just move on. But then Satan recommended in the comments about maybe uploading it to the Exploring series, because it is pretty much the exact same structure for the most part. At the very least, it's highly scripted and meant to be professionally done. And at first I was like, nah. But then I gave it a little bit of thought, and it was like, I mean, I guess I did put professional-esque work into it. In the case that somebody did see it, you know, a bunch of people saw it. So it's formatted in the right way. And then I was like, it can't really hurt. It's not like the My Little Pony thing where people just have like this backlash. I might have lost a few subs over it, but not really anything bigly noticeable. And so I was like, alright, can't really hurt, so, you know, if people like it, great. If not, we'll just never do it again. No big deal. And so I uploaded it, and I was pleasantly surprised. People seem to enjoy it. I think a lot of people just like, you know, listening to me talk, which I think some people that are not video creators might find a little odd. Some people might find it odd. But that's just kind of how it is. I mean, unless you have some, like, really messed up voice, I think there are going to be people that like listening to you talk. Somewhere out there. Some people, I never thought I had a good voice. I still don't think I have a good voice, but there are plenty of people that just like listening to me talk. And of course, there are people that I have been told listen to me as they fall asleep, which, you know, that's something to think about in life, I guess. People drift off to sleep to the sound of my voice. I guess that's flattering. And I do. I mean, I fall asleep to YouTube videos. So, it is what it is. Anyways, what was I talking about? Yeah, so, I mean, I could probably make videos about just about anything and get a few thousand views. Which is pretty cool when you get to think about it. Not that my channel is indestructible. I can certainly still destroy my channel utterly with bad enough mistakes, but it's nice having a little bit of luxury that, yeah, I've got some freedom for uploading. I can try out things and get a good amount of feedback. It's hard to say how honest the feedback is, because I'm sure I have a following of people that will watch anything that I put out there, and they'll be like, oh, this is good. And I'm sure I have some people on this channel that do the same thing, and I definitely appreciate it. It definitely helps my ego, so thank you. It's just there's a lot more people already on the Exploring series. Anyways, people did seem to like it, and a bunch of people wanted to see more Exploring RPGs. And that's not really on the table. I mean, I'm only really going to think about doing it whenever I play a new RPG. Or if we went back to Shadowrun ever at some point, then I might think about doing it, but because I think a professionally done video for Shadowrun could be good. And really, I like the, I mean, I love the lore of Shadowrun. I love a lot of the lore there. So that's possible, but that would be way down the line where I would work on that, I think. Most of the stuff in the future is going to be handled by viewer poll. So, I mean, maybe at some point people will pick Shadowrun, but we got a lot of big stuff to get through, like Warhammer and Warcraft and Dune. A lot of people request Dune. I didn't think Dune was that widely popular. I mean, maybe in the 80s or something, but I don't really hear people talk about Dune that much anymore. But I've gotten a bunch of requests. Well, yeah, day stream. I usually try to do a hang with Mangg during the day on Sundays. Where was I? Yeah, so, yeah, Exploring RPGs, not really a regular thing, but didn't hurt. Nice little, tiny little bump in views for that day, which is good. And then this week I worked on Exploring Star Wars General Grievous. Going into that, I didn't know almost anything about General Grievous. I was surprised that it won the vote on Patreon, because I was like, General Grievous, I mean, he's in, like, you know, half of Star Wars Episode 3, and he's just kind of a weird, goofy villain. And I knew he was in Clone Wars show. Both shows, I guess. But I'm not hugely familiar with it. I'm very slowly working my way through the Clone Wars cartoon. I watched the 2003 one from the guy that did Samurai Jack. That show, I mean, the whole show is only like 2 hours long. It's basically just a movie, but damn, is it freaking awesome. Like, in the future, from now on, whenever I rewatch all the Star Wars movies, between Episode 2 and Episode 3, I'm going to watch that show. It's so, there's so many, like, badass action moments in that show. Mace Windu is like a fucking demigod in that show. It's ridiculous. So I really enjoyed that. The Clone Wars show, like, the cartoon, the newer one, it's just, it seems so kidsy, and I don't know. I never feel like anything really awesome happens in that show, and I feel like they pull a lot of punches because it's for kids and stuff, and it doesn't grab me as much as I want it to. I haven't seen anything of Rebels, so maybe that's a little better, but it's also for kids, so I don't know. So anyway, yeah, I didn't know almost anything about General Grievous, but then I actually looked into the whole thing. I did the research, and I looked into his backstory, and I was really impressed. He's got a great backstory. You actually do sympathize with him. His backstory is no nonsense. So I was very pleasantly surprised. I thought it turned out to be a good video, but then again, like I said, it doesn't really matter what I think. So hopefully people like it. General Grievous, the comment section is just going to be filled with memes about Grievous and stuff like that, because, again, he's kind of just a bit of a joke character in Episode 3. Oh well. So then, we have, let's see. I have 2 more episodes, 2 more videos of Star Wars that I'm going to be working on before I leave. Because I leave on a Monday, so I can have a video done for then. And then the following 3 weeks will be videos that I've worked on. Yeah, I guess that's about it. On this channel, we did, of course, The Surge and Prey, which are continuing. Unearthed Arcana, which is continuing. Not all villains are bad to just be bad. You mean you don't need a villain to be sympathetic in some way or relatable in some way? I mean, you don't. But, I mean, you have Palpatine, right? Palpatine is not relatable in any way. There is not a single ounce of sympathy anyone has ever had for Palpatine. He is just pure evil and bad. He had no falling. Like, he was never good and then he fell to evil, or, you know, nothing like that. Just from when he was born, he was just evil. And, you know, he's a popular villain because he is just bad. But, you know, Star Wars has... He's the biggest villain in Star Wars. So for its other villains, I don't mind there being some sort of, you know, falling out or interesting backstory. Star Wars tends to fall into tropes of just, I'm good and I'm evil and, oh, geez, let's fight. So I was pleasantly surprised with Grievous's backstory. Where was I? Yeah, we did a Dungeon World stream, and then the Sprawl video, and I think that was about it. Yeah, I mean, Star Wars has a lot of characters, like a huge breadth of characters. So you kind of get heroes of every type and you get villains of every type, so. I'm working on recording stuff for, like, gaming videos for when I'm gone. I don't know what the final number will be of videos for when I'm gone. I have one video. I have one video ready to go. Dungeon crawl video. And I actually bought, I guess it's a bit of a spoiler, but it's not a big deal. I actually bought Disgaea 5 complete for the Switch. Pretty much because I wanted something to record for when I'm gone, and I've heard the Disgaea games are good, and I think the Switch needed more games, so I was like, okay, this works. So I should get that, like, tomorrow or something, and I'll start recording that so we have some more stuff. And I was looking at maybe some, like, little indie games on Steam. Maybe I could just do a couple things on. I'll have something for when I'm gone. We finally got to play the Dark Souls board game. Oh, shit. That was a misclick. We finally got to play the Dark Souls board game on Wednesday. And, I mean, we had played it on Tabletop Simulator, but that didn't really count. this was our first full game in person on the table, and it took us about 4 hours. I think like almost on the dot, 4 hours from start to finish, and which is lengthy. That is lengthy for a board game. Granted, it was our first time, so you know, hopefully we can trim it down in the future. And there's a couple house rules maybe that can trim the time down. The biggest problem that I saw was that we won. That does not seem right to me. We had 2 lives, basically. If any of us died twice, the game was over, okay? And so I was like, okay, we're so boned. Like, there's no way we're gonna do this. This is Dark Souls. And we actually did lose 1 life. We went through, like, the whole first section. We beat the gargoyle, the mini-boss. First try. We did everything first try. We kept on going. We were steamrolling. And then we got to a room that had, like, 2 of those big sentinels in Anne Orlando. The big tower shield type guys. And they have like 10 health in that game, which is just kind of ridiculous. And we were like, this isn't... We died like almost immediately. Like, this is impossible. And so we lost 1 of our lives. Everything reset back to the point where after we beat the gargoyle. So we had to clear 2 more rooms. We get back to the sentinel room, and we're like, this might be the end. But we actually really sat there, and as a group, we got to just kind of really think it through and work it out, and which is the cool part, that you can sit there as a group, you know, good cooperative sense. You know, you all have sort of equal input as to how this strategy works, and to figure it out, best positioning and all that kind of stuff. It's like a chess match. But the bad part then, of course, is you have to rely on dice. So it doesn't matter really how awesome, kick-ass your strategy and positioning are. If the dice do not go your way, you might just die and game over. So we actually did beat the Sentinels that time. Very miraculously, we did. And we kept on going, and so I'm like, okay, we don't look like we're in good shape. We've done really no farming of almost any kind. Things do not look great. But we went up against the Dancer, and the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. And I'm thinking, all right, like, we're fucked. Like, this is going to be done in, like, 3 turns, and we're just all dead or whatever. But no, we won. And everyone else was like, yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, we won. First try, we're the greatest. And I'm like shaking my head, like, this is not right. This is not right. Because that's kind of how I feel a little bit in, you know, a Souls game. If I beat a boss first try, it's like, I mean, you're happy a little bit, because it's like, wow, okay, I'm really good. But then you're like, am I? Was something wrong here? Something's not right. Something's not right. And that's what I thought when we beat it. The problem is, most of the game is filled with just regular encounters. You're just fighting little enemies, you know, mooks. Just regular enemies like I'm fighting here. From room to room in encounters. And that's how you get souls, and that's how you get items and stuff like that. And I understand completely how all of those encounters work. They're fairly simple to understand. And then you get to the boss, and they really kind of switch it up, because the boss has their own, like, deck of cards, and you go through it, and that determines, like, what they do every turn. So it kind of varies up. You can't really predict too much what the boss is going to do, which is good. But the boss rules are a little bit different, because the bosses are all bigger, and so they have, like, arcs, and, like, the rules change between the regular enemies and the boss for how they control. And so I understood regular enemies, but I'm not sure I understood how to handle bosses. I thought I did, but then it seemed like this is too easy. And the Dancer, during her turns when she was doing actions, she was just, like, bouncing around and, like, stabbing the wall a bunch of times. And it's like, this is not right. It can't be. So I'm not sure. I might have to like watch a video or see something about that to see how other people are playing the bosses. Maybe I did it right. Maybe the dancer is just kind of a goofball, but I'm expecting, you know, when I went in, I was expecting like the dancer from the video game who is just like, who is a little bit goofy with her movements, but a lot of it is just like, what the fuck, get off me, you know? That's what I was expecting, not her sitting there stabbing the walls over and over and letting us just kill her. Like, it was not right. But overall, I did enjoy the game quite a bit. It is fun to just, you know, the sort of puzzly, chess-like aspects of the fights and figuring out positioning and, okay, they're, you know, because you can kind of, for regular enemies, you know, they have one card each. So you know exactly what they're going to do on their turn. You can predict exactly what they're going to do on their turn, which is obviously a little bit different than the video games, but you can predict what the enemy is going to do. So you can say, okay, if you move here, they're going to attack him instead of this guy, and you can move here and you can attack this guy and we can kill this guy, so this guy will attack this guy, and you can kind of, you know, that's not, that doesn't appeal to everyone, I understand, but I do like that aspect of it. I think that is pretty cool. And I also like the whole loot aspect, because there's just so many loot cards, and, you know, it does kind of give you a bit of a Diablo feel, where you have no idea what you're going to get as far as item cards are concerned. It's pretty much just this huge random deck of cards, and you might pull out, you know, two-handed swords, or spells, or little daggers, or shields. You know, it's all just random, which is obviously very different than the games, because the games are not really that random. At least not after you play it once. And like in the board game, you like need to get better weapons, and you need to get better armor and stuff like that, whereas the video game, you can just, Dark Souls 1, you can just take your longsword from the start, you just keep upgrading it, and you can beat the game with it, and that's just how it is. The board games not work that way. You need to move on from the longsword to the broadsword to like a special sword or something like that. But the thing I like about it is that you never know what you're going to get. And so I started out as an assassin, right? So I started out with like a target shield and like an S-Stock. And then I moved on to like a short sword and an S-Stock. And then I got like the gargoyle tail axe, which is funny because the gargoyle tail axe, you know, I don't know if everyone knows about Dark Souls, but gargoyle tail axe from Dark Souls 1 is pretty garbage, right? Like nobody ever uses that thing. I've almost never used it. It's pretty garbage. In the board game, it's pretty kick-ass. It's one of the better weapons you'll get for a while. A good long while. So I started using the gargoyle tail axe with two hands, and then we got the effigy shield, which lets you use it in an offhand if you're using a two-handed weapon, so it's kind of weird how that works. And so that bumped up my defense. And then I think I gave away the gargoyle tail axe so I could get, I don't even remember what I was using. I had like gargoyle tail axe, and I had like poison mist, and then I got the master's attire from Dark Souls 3, you know, from like that ninja guy. And so I was the only one in our group that could dodge, because you need dodging armor in order to dodge, which is weird. You either have to dodge or block, and I was good at dodging. Not there. I was not good at dodging there, but some people are good at dodging. And so it's just kind of a crapshoot, a little bit of what you're going to get. And so it's kind of like Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup in a way, where, you know, you have to sort of adapt to what you find. You know, it's random, and so as a group, you have to decide, okay, well, if we level up his faith 2 times, we spend the souls here to level up his faith, he can use that, and then, you know, we can, okay, he's going to start using this spell, or, you know, we're going to switch over to using this shield and this sword and blah blah blah. And it's just cool. It's a cool cooperative. I don't like a lot of cooperative games, but I think Dark Souls is pretty solid. Obviously, I'd like to see it modified a little bit in some sense, you know, double souls, half spark, so you get more items, you can use more items, but if you die once with 4 people, you're game over. That would be interesting. Figuring out how bosses work would be good. But yeah, we had a good time with it, I think. 4 hours, but a good time. My mom and I, of course, have been playing Arkham Horror card game, which is incredible. Can't wait to get the expansions. And we were doing a full campaign where we were going through pretty much everything we had. The only thing we didn't do was Carnival of Horrors, but we did Curse of the Rougarou and all the other stuff we had. It was a decently sized campaign. We ended up having quite a bit of trauma on our characters, so it was a little dicey at the end, but we actually ended up winning. We did all right. We went all the way through, and we didn't do as bad as I thought we would, and we had a good time. And so we could keep going. We could maybe up the difficulty or, you know, try slightly different characters or whatever, but I figured that was a good little send-off until I get the little expansions and we keep going. And in the meantime, because I'm all about Cyberpunk stuff again, we can play some Netrunner. So we started up Netrunner again. That's just a fantastic card game. I have no idea why Fantasy Flight is so against digital stuff, digital card games, because if they put out a real proper version digitally of Netrunner, my God, that would just be awesome. That's just printing money. What are you doing? Yeah, really good. Obviously, she kind of forgot almost everything of how to play, but I think we'll get back to that point, and it's just a solid game until we get more Arkham stuff. Saturday, we had our big Twilight Imperium day, since the last time we played in November. And there was 5 of us again. We kind of have a core group for Twilight Imperium. And we were all... The thing about Twilight Imperium is, unless you play very regularly, there are going to be a lot of tiny little rules that you're going to forget how they work. Which was the case with us. We all understood how the strategy phase works and how, you know, actions work. Like, we didn't really have to explain any of that, but just the tiny little things like how PDS fires and the order of little actions during a fight and, you know, basic stuff like that that is not a huge deal as far as I don't know how to play, but it's just like there's a lot of little rulebook checks that slow down the day a little bit. And so, yeah, we play with a decent number of variants, mostly designed to speed the game up. The whole day took us about 5 hours or so, something like that. Around 5 hours, a little bit more, which is a good amount for Twilight Imperium, a full game. And we do deal 2 aliens, pick one, so you're not just forced to play something you don't want to. Not completely. And so I ended up playing as the Winu, which is one of the expansion aliens. They're not that special. They can get, they can activate the secondary technology thing for free, which is, you know, it's fine, I guess. Saves your strategy allocation a little bit, but not a big deal. Their home planet, you can always add their influence even if it's exhausted, so they're a bit of a political alien, which is what I wanted. Pretty much everybody else in the group, for the most part, plays the game a little bit like Space Risk. You know, they build up their forces, they are prepared to wage war if it comes to that. Some of them are a bit more aggressive than that even. You know, they play it like a big space fleet risk-type game. And I play the game 180 degrees differently. I play it completely different. Yes, I build ships, but really only as part of like an objective that I have to fulfill. Like my preliminary objective, secret one at the start of the game, was to build 5 dreadnoughts. And I'm like, okay, I don't want dreadnoughts at all. I have no interest in ever owning a single dreadnought. But since it's an objective that I pretty much have to complete if I want a chance at winning, I have to get some dreadnoughts out. And so I had to work on that. But I play Twilight Imperium for the most part with no goal of actually winning the game. Not that I just fuck around and just like, oh, I'm gonna check a planet here because it's funny or anything like that. If I miraculously manage to win the game, it's like, holy shit, what were you guys doing? But my main goal when I'm playing Twilight Imperium is to have fun. You know, you play a game 2 times a year. It's 5 hours or more lengthy in time commitment. It's not a thing that I could just afford to stake everything on winning. You know, I can't stake my enjoyment of that game and that experience just on winning. Because chances are I'm not that likely to win no matter, even if I was really trying. It's tough. And so risking just sort of ruining my experience a little bit because I'm trying so hard to win and then I fail, I can almost guarantee myself having fun if I try to have fun, so I just go for that. So in that endeavor, I almost always go for the political cards. Because that's what makes Twilight Imperium different to me. Without the political stuff going on, it's pretty much just like Risk in space with more rules. You know, you're building up technology and you have, you know, some trade agreements and stuff like that, and there's little funny events, action cards that can be played, but for the most part, it's just kind of a game about fighting and stuff. The political cards are what make Twilight Imperium as far as I'm concerned. So, 90% of that game, 90% of the game rounds that we played, I had the political strategy card, and I was doing that. And it's, you know, I get to pick which political card I play from my hand, and I had the biggest selection, of course, because I'm drawing the most. And of course, I wasn't going to pick things that were just, like, completely pointless. And I also wasn't picking things that were just completely, like, detrimental to myself just because it's funny or anything like that. I tried to pick the most interesting things for the state of the game. And so, yeah, and I had fun. I had fun being political. And I got, like, 2nd place. So, if I can get 2nd place and have a lot of fun playing the game, that's just a great day for me as far as I'm concerned. Mert actually ended up winning. Mert, of course, I shit on Mert a lot, verbally. But I think he's won, like, the most games of Twilight Imperium.
Very well.
He always does well at Twilight Imperium. I don't know how exactly. Somehow he always benefits. He tends to be a bit more warlike, I guess, but, yeah, somehow it always works out for him. And so he beat us all by 2 points, which was not insignificant. There wasn't really almost anything we could do. We did kind of fuck up the last round. We could have prolonged the game a little bit and given ourselves a chance. If I had taken the bureaucracy strategy card before he did, which gave him, like, free victory points, but I took the political card instead. So maybe that was a bit foolish. But I had fun, so I have no regrets. So yeah, you know, twice a year or so, 5 hours, a good Saturday spent playing Twilight Imperium. Good day. Good day. What else do we got? So, Dungeon World. We played on Monday. I think we have our last Dungeon World session this week, which will go out with a bang, of course. I'm sure the bag will make an introduction. And then the following week, I think Ziggy wants to do like a one-shot of the Sprawl before I leave. I don't know if that... I mean, I don't know if he actually wants to do a one-shot or if it's going to tie into the full campaign or if it's just the start of the campaign. I'm not sure what he wants to do. And then I'm gone for a while, so there's that. So Dungeon World, very, very funny. Very funny stuff. If you happen to watch the video, the stream, just probably the most hilarious death I've ever witnessed in a role-playing game. I just could not stop laughing at that shit. Even, like, later that night, after everyone left, I was sitting there just chuckling at the absurdity of it. So we start the session, and everyone is pretty beat up. Everyone has lost quite a bit of health from our encounter at the tower with the warlock and stuff. And so they, of course, wanted to just sleep it all off and, you know, wait a while. But I was like, no, we're gonna go spend the night at the freak show at the gallery. It'll be fun. You know, we're gonna go see a blue moss guy, and who knows what else we'll see there. It'll be great. So they take a little bit of rest, and then we head down there in the evening, late evening, and we pay to enter. I think I pay for everybody, actually, which was the least of their concerns. So we go in and we start checking out the freak show, and of course the Moss Eater is there that we came to see. He's just this, he's not really that big, he's like a little flabby, but normal guy. He just is eating a giant mound of moss, blue moss. Or purple moss, or whatever color it is. And, there's like a strong man there, a strong dwarf. And there is, there's supposedly like a two-headed lady, but she's doing something behind like closed curtains. You have to pay to go check out or something like that. Like, leave it to your imagination or something like that. And so it's a freak show. So we, of course, go over to the Moss Eater, and he just seems like a, you know, fairly normal guy that's just consuming a copious amount of moss. And he's pretty blue. He's a pretty blue guy. His skin is all blue. Like, okay, you know, we can't learn a whole lot from just watching him eat moss, so we'll have to talk to him after he's done, and then maybe we can learn some stuff. So we wander over to the strong dwarf, who's, he was lifting weights, but now apparently he's taking, like, requests from the crowd in exchange for money to, like, see what he can lift. So we walk up there. Thomas's character is already waiting in line to go see the two-headed woman, so Phil and I are standing near the strong dwarf. And so I throw some coins on stage, and I say, lift this guy, and I point to Phil. And he says, all right, sure. And Phil says this. And so he goes on stage, and he sort of kneels down so that this dwarf can lift him up. And as the dwarf goes to lift him, I increase the gravity on Phil quite a bit. So I make Phil a lot heavier. And so this dwarf is very shocked to see that he cannot lift this normal-looking guy. And he begins just straining, like blood vessels are just popping out of this guy's head as he's desperately trying to lift him. And when I think that he's just giving him his all, I turn off the gravity effect. Not only that, but when I turn off a gravity effect on something, for a temporary moment afterwards, the reverse effect applies. So Phil suddenly became quite light. For a moment. Just for a little moment. Just an instant. Which... which, of course, sent Phil flying 15 feet up into the air and slamming into the stone ceiling, causing him to take some damage. Now remember, he only has like 4 health at this point.
Very well.
Because he was weakened from the whole tower thing and we didn't really rest. So he's got like 4 health. He takes 2 damage as he slams into the ceiling with force. So now he's got like a 15-foot fall down to the hard wooden stage. Of course, I am just cracking up at this point. I cannot contain myself. And so Ziggy said, okay, you're about to fall 15 feet down. What do you do? His first choice of action is to turn himself invisible. Perhaps not the most prudent thing. But he does so. He does turn invisible. So as he slams into the stone ceiling after flying upwards, I mean, you can picture the scene in your head, I'm sure. He slams into the ceiling, and it seems like he just, like, disintegrates. He just completely disappears. But that, of course, doesn't stop his fall in any way, shape, or form. And so he tries to roll dexterity in order to land gracefully. And he rolls like a 4. So he fails. Fails pretty badly. And so I get the honors of rolling his damage for him as he collides with the floor after hitting the ceiling. And it's a D4 for his damage. So if I roll anything higher than a 1, he's going to be pretty much done. And so, of course, I roll a 4. So then he has to roll last breath. His last breath roll as he collides with the stage. To see, you know, if he is spared or if he has to make a bargain with death. Or if he just dies outright. And of course he rolls like a 5. And so he's just instantly dead. Meanwhile, I am just like gasping for air at this point. Because this is the funniest shit I've ever witnessed. Compounded with the fact that he went invisible, which was just perfect. He just disintegrated into the ceiling. But then when he died, when he hit the ground, he becomes visible again. So nobody knows what the fuck is going on. And of course, everybody blames the dwarf for, like, committing murder. My God, it was just so incredibly perfect. And, I mean, literally my train of thought going into this freak show and all this, my train of thought was, okay, there's a strong man, there's a strong dwarf. Maybe it would be funny if as he's lifting, like, a big weight, you know, I make it heavy so he can't do it. That would be funny. That was just like a 1-second thought that I had. And then when I found out that he's doing requests, I'm like, oh, it would be funnier if it was Phil. I mean, that's just no argument. It's just funnier. It has to be. So I throw the coins on stage, and I'm like, you know, he'll lift him. And I'm like, you know, he might not trust me at all, so he probably wouldn't do it. But he's just like, oh, sure. And I'm like, okay, he's doing it. So he gets on stage, and he's about to get lifted, and I make him heavy. And I'm like, okay, this is funny. And then I remember, oh, when I remove the effect, it does the opposite. So he's going to be really light. So I should do that when he's like straining the most. Which I did. And then from there, it was out of control. So yeah, that's the funniest death I've ever witnessed. I don't know if anything compares to that. I can't really think of anything that compares to that. And it was kind of an accident. Like I didn't go in there thinking I'm gonna murder Phil. I'm gonna murder him so good it's gonna be awesome. It really was just kind of like this escalating series of thoughts that I had, and I didn't think he would end up dead at the end of it. It really didn't even enter my mind. I just thought it would be a funny series of events, and it certainly was, no doubt. It just happened to end with him dead, which makes it even funnier. So I don't really regret my actions. He just might really think about trusting me again in the future. Think better of it. Yeah, that was a hell of a start to this session. So, you know, the manager or whatever comes out on stage and, you know, says if anyone knew this guy, and we're like, yeah, we knew him. And so we basically looted his corpse, and we went on our way. That was pretty much it. So Phil rolls up a new character. He rolls up a bard, which kind of I really honestly thought he was gonna roll up a revenge character. I mean, if you guys have been listening and watching and roll Mangg for long enough, you've heard plenty of revenge characters that wanted to kill me, and they never have. Not once have I ever died to a revenge character, which is it's a point of pride with me, really. And so I really thought, okay, here we go again. I'm gonna have to deal with some sadistic barbarian whose sole purpose in life is to kill Orion. That's what I thought, but Phil is not pushed that far yet. He's not been pushed over the brink. So he just made a bard. And so we still have to deal with this moss eater guy, right? So after his show is done, after he eats all the moss, he goes backstage. I bribe the guy to get backstage so I can talk to him. And I forced Thomas to pretend to be a doctor so he can kind of examine him. Mostly because I thought it was funny. I do a lot of things because I think they're funny. They tend to be, I think. Not for everybody, maybe, but I thought that was harmless. Phil dying, maybe not harmless, but pretending to be a doctor, that's harmless, right? So Thomas doesn't really know how to inspect this guy. He didn't do as well as I thought. Bards make the best revenge characters? Maybe. Every revenge character against me has either been like, yeah, pretty much like a raging fighter barbarian or like a wizard who grabs like the most powerful offensive spells that they can with no regard for anything else, and they just want to fireball me out of existence. That's what I've experienced. Because to actually do revenge, if you actually want to kill me, I mean, it's not that difficult. If I actually decided I'm going to kill this character, if I ever really decided that, which, if you ever get me that pissed off, like, after I kill your character, you should not play with me anymore. Like, that's not going to work. Most of the time that a player character gets killed, it's just because of kind of a funny accident. Like, if you actually wanted to kill a character, doing something while they're sleeping or poisoning or something like that, like preying off of their trust in some way is usually the best way to do it. But when you make your intentions very clear from the start, and you basically just challenge me in an open field or something like that, or, you know, Matt made a character one time, like a wizard, and he tried to gank me while we were in an arena with, like, 100 combatants or something like that, and that failed because, come on, you're out in the open, it's just not gonna work. No, the broom killing everybody, that was pretty funny. I mean, that was just overall, that was probably the funniest TPK. But the funniest individual character death, it's gonna be hard to top this. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, right, so we're talking to the Moss guy. Yeah. And so this Moss guy, he's not as, like, messed up as I thought he might be. But without, like, he didn't seem to really want to consult a proper doctor or anything like that. He just claimed that he was feeling fine, or, you know, he had sight problems and problem with his senses. He didn't seem in perfect condition, though. And so I was like, this problem is only really going to get worse. This Moss is not good for the population of the town. It's just not going to end well. And so I decided, okay, I needed to make an example of this guy. Because this town is not as afraid of this Moss as I think they need to be. They're just treating it like, oh, free food, this is excellent, yay, food. When it will probably end up killing them or some worse fate. So I was like, I need to scare them. And if I have to kill one guy to save, you know, 10,000, so be it. Not every character I play thinks like that, but probably most of them. So I'm like, okay, I gotta kill this guy, but I need to make it look like the Moss did something to him, right? So I decided, if the people of this town thought that this guy exploded internally, imploded, whatever, on the street, and this guy is like the biggest Moss eater in the town, people might make the connection, right? Like, oh, this guy ate a lot of that Moss, and he suddenly is just exploded in the street. Maybe we should put it aside. So I told this guy, like, there's this new Moss wine that he needs to try. I'll go buy him a bottle, and, like, let's head to the bar. So he and I start heading to the bar. And we get in the street, nobody's really around, so I put my arms around him, put him in like a bear hug. And then I reverse gravity, so we start flying up into the air together.
Milk, what is it? Very well.
Then when we're like 100 feet up in the air, I reverse gravity back down to normal, so now we're falling. And I slow myself, but I don't slow him. So he plummets to the ground. He basically just smashes in this giant blue orgy of guts on the street. I figure that's a pretty good effect. So I land, and I start walking away pretty quickly. And while I'm walking away quickly, I bump into this other guy who I could tell throughout this session so far that Ziggy really wanted me to meet this guy. And I could tell he was probably another Star Mage, so it makes sense that I would talk to this guy. So I was just caught up with my own stuff that I kind of lost track of it. But he bumped into me in the street, and he apparently witnessed a little bit of what I did to explode this guy, so he didn't seem like he was going to kill me, but I didn't know to trust him or not. And so we ended up talking, and we headed back to the inn, and we revealed that we're both Star Mages and blah, blah, blah. And he seems like he's going to be an ally of some type. Meanwhile, Thomas is spending time as a rat, and And so he starts, like, hanging out with the rat population of the town. And he ends up coming across, like, this golden rat statue. Like, under, like, some floorboards or something like that in a burnt-out building or something like that. And so he touches the rat statue. And Ziggy asks him to name a body part. And so, of course, the first thought that came to my mind, which is I'm not proud of, but I definitely thought of a penis first. I mean, that's just, I'm sorry. I don't know why. That's just what I thought of. I'm ashamed. But, that's what I thought of. But Thomas apparently either didn't have that thought or he thought better of it. And so he named his hands. And so the statue ended up turning him as a normal human being, completely normal in every way, but his hands are the hands of a rat. Like, you know, like a normal, like big normal human size, but like a rat. So it's probably for the best that he did not say penis, as that would just be, I don't even know. So it's good that he thought better of it. So now he is a normal human, but he has permanent rat hands, which has its downside. You don't really want rat hands. But in exchange, he was given a golden, like, suit of clothes, like a golden vest and golden pants. That, like, increased his charisma and had, like, 3 armor, which is really, like, that's plate armor, pretty much. That's really good. I was surprised. And they're, like, pure golden and just, like, radiating light and stuff. Just, like, deific kind of clothes. So he comes back to the bar, or back to the inn where me and the Star Mage are chatting. And also at the inn is a performing bard, which is, of course, Phil's new character. I think his name is, like, Durf, but I started calling him Doof immediately, so. And so, obviously, since there's a performing bard there, he gets wrapped up into our story and blah, blah, blah. And so, Thomas comes walking in with this, you know, incredible set of clothes. And Gulk comes in. Traveling merchant Gulk. And he remarks on this set of clothes. And so then I start asking him, like, you know, how much would you pay for this set of golden clothes? And so if he, of course, like, lowballs the shit out of it, I'm like, hell no, man. This is, like, deific clothes. And you know it. This is one of a kind. Pure gold. Magical. And so we end up squeezing him for 20,000 gold coins. 20,000. To our name, to my name at that point, I had about 600 and some. So 20,000 is pretty good. You can buy, I mean, this is what we discussed. You can buy a warship. Your very own warship for 20,000 gold pieces. We decided against that because we figured there would be extenuating cost to owning a warship. Like, it's not just, oh, here's my 20,000. Okay, enjoy your warship. I don't know if there's taxes or, you know, supply cost, repair costs, you know, all these kind of things add up. Probably a bigger crew for a warship, stuff like that. And we figured, okay, we don't quite have the funds to really afford a warship. So we went a step down. We're like, 15,000, we can buy like a merchant ship. And we could do quite a bit with that. So we're not in a town anywhere near the ocean, so there's no ships here. We have to head west to Port Agnar or whatever to get a new ship made. And so we're like, all right, let's head out in the morning. We'll go to the port and we'll buy a ship. That's that. Like, he had his rat god armor for like 30 minutes before we sold it for 20,000 coins, but that's a shit ton, man. That's very nice. And he wouldn't have done it, but I think I really pushed for it because I thought it was just a good idea. Which is funny because it wasn't my armor at all. I was just like, 20,000 coins. So yeah, that was pretty much it. And we recruited the bard to kind of join us, and he said he would work on the ship without pay. So oh yeah, he was wearing them, no doubt. I mean, they were fantastical clothes, so they were worth 20,000. I think. I don't know. I don't know what they were really worth. One of a kind magical clothes that give you plus charisma and plate armor value is pretty good. So yeah, that was pretty much it. We set out the next day. We got some horses and we rode out of town. You know, we kind of left the whole moss problem behind. I have no idea what happened with the exploded moss guy, or if there was news about it or whatever. We just completely forgot about that. We were supposed to head south to check out the moss and find the source, but we were like, well, let's get our ship first, and then we can go like down the coast. You know, much safer to go on the ocean. I don't know if that's true, but I really wanted to spend this money that wasn't mine on a big ship. And so we rode out of town, and that's where we ended. So, next session this week, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, the bag will probably make an appearance when we're in Port Agnar or whatever, and all hell is probably going to break loose. I don't think we'll ever get on the ship, but you never know. I think it'll be a fun session to go out on. I really like Dungeon World. I really do. Dungeon World replaces D&D for the most part for me. For just getting to the pure dungeon type, dragon type goodness, Dungeon World does the job for me, especially with the Star Mage, which is the best class ever made, bar none. So I really like it, but Cyberpunk is definitely a true passion of mine. Really enjoy Cyberpunk, and so getting to mix Dungeon World type stuff with Cyberpunk, that's really enticing. You know, I like Shadowrun. I like the lore of Shadowrun. I'm okay with the rules. I like the shopping of Shadowrun. But incidentally, having so many rules, you know, trying to have rules for everything means that you're not going to have rules for everything. And so, in a system in which you're trying to have rules for something, you know, for any given situation, and some situation comes up where you don't have the rules or you don't know the rules or whatever, it's a lot harder to just kind of come up with it on the spot, because there's all these different kind of subsystems and things involved that need to, you know, it needs to kind of make sense within the existing rules. Where if you have just a more bare bones framework, not too bare bones, I'm not talking like generic kind of Fate type stuff, but a little bit of foundation. It's a lot more flexible for you to just be like, okay, this works like this. This works like this. Within this framework. And so I actually see more potential for coming up with cool stuff in the Sprawl than in Shadowrun. Because, likely in Shadowrun, there are rules for something you want to do somewhere in the supplements or whatever, and then you have to, you know, you have to find the rules, you have to read the rules, you have to understand the rules, you have to explain the rules. Everybody at the table needs to understand the rules, and that gets just very crunchy. And so when we played Shadowrun, you know, a lot of stuff just gets swept under the rug, and it makes the overall system weaker when you do ignore rules. Whereas something like the Sprawl, you know, if a situation comes up, we can just kind of decide, you know, okay, it works like this. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. It can just be kind of simple. Hacking is a big example. You know, you don't have to have, you know, 20 pages of rules for every situation. Like, this is how this works, and you need marks, and you gotta access this, and you got to roll this time, and you got to roll 8 times to do this, and it's just like, no, just have one roll so you can get to the good part of the game. For some people, the good part of the game is the rules. They like all the crunchiness. They love it. They like having all these numbers and mechanics. But for most people playing role-playing games, what you want is to just play the game. You want to just experience the action and the story and things like that. You know, it's kind of like social encounters. Most games, they simplify social encounters quite a bit. You know, you're just talking for the most part. Occasionally a role might come up, but for the most part it just flows. The same idea is now, you know, with a lot of newer games such as the Sprawl and Dungeon World, you transfer that same kind of thought process over to the action. You're just, you know, it just flows. That's the whole idea. You're just talking and occasionally a role comes up rather than basically reading statistical sheets and, you know, pages of rules just to get the fight done. You just want to get through the fight, basically generally in a very cinematic sense. You know, we're all picturing this fight in our head. We want it to go through like a movie, and, you know, you want to do cool stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no danger just because we're kind of flowing with everything. In the Sprawl, I mean, you can be dropped by a few bullets if you're just really stupid. But, you know, you can also do the same to your enemies, and so it's just stripping out of the lot of rules, streamlining the whole process, I think makes for a more enjoyable system, and carrying that over not just to action, not just to talking, but also everything in general, hacking and cyberware and all that. Just having that base framework means that me as a player, you know, when I'm entering into this system, I'm already thinking about all this cool cyberware and cool tech, you know, that I could just think of and be like, okay, I want this. I want this in the game. You know, I want grenades. I want grenades that I can roll on the ground and then they can, like, move autonomously. That's what I want. That's what I want, okay? Right? I just want to roll a grenade down the corridor and then it can, like, turn left. Like, it like BB-8, you know, in Star Wars. It can just move on its own. Or, you know, I can control it or whatever. That doesn't exist in the Sprawl. That doesn't exist in Shadowrun. But if I were to introduce it, it'd be far easier to do in the Sprawl, I think. And that's just a random example that I was just thinking about, but pretty much anything like that. Cyberware, drugs, poisons, weapons, vehicles, whatever. It all seems a lot easier to just introduce into the Sprawl. So I'm excited to definitely get into it. And here I'm spending way too much time talking about RPGs yet again. So I guess we'll wrap it up. I saw Alien Covenant this week. Thumbs up for me. Good movie. Better than Prometheus, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they're not going to top Alien or Aliens, really, as far as just classic horror action type films, but I thought Alien Covenant was just kind of a decent popcorn flick. Science fiction, aliens involved, and just pretty good. We were all pretty happy with it, so if you were a little disappointed with Prometheus, you know, check out Covenant. I think it is better. And we got Wonder Woman this week, so I hope I can say similar things about Wonder Woman. But, alright, I've talked enough, so check out the General Grievous video tomorrow over on the Exploring series. We got more of The Surge, Prey, Bloodborne this week, and yeah, just a couple more weeks until I leave, so exciting times. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg, and I will see you fine folks next week.